Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our C# programming tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at Parse and TryParse. Now you might notice that we changed environments. We're no longer in Windows and we're on Mac. That's because this is a re-recording of the original version of this video. Originally, all the videos in this series were recorded using Windows, but OBS decided to screw itself up. I don't know what it did. I'm in the process of trying to fix it, but in the interest of getting this stuff out to you as soon as possible, I am re-recording from this video, number 44, all the way down to the end. To, I believe it's 92. That way you guys have all the videos, right? So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So what is the parse method? Let's start with that one. That's the simplest. Parse allows us to convert from a string to, say, an integer or a double or something like that. Okay, because oftentimes in your programs you're going to convert from strings to numeric values and back again, especially when we're dealing with money values. In order to manipulate money values, you obviously need the numeric representation, and then to display them, you need to show them in a in a formatted string sort of way. So you're going to be parsing a string back and forth. That's why these methods are very important. So, in order to use parse, we need to do the following. So let's create a string variable, and we're going to call this number str. So string. Oh wait, I'm not in VS Code. Okay, so we're going to say string. Number str equals, and we'll say 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay. Next, we're going to convert this to an integer. We need an integer value to represent the result of our parse. So we'll say int number equals int, so the data type, that is int dot, and we want to use parse. Okay. Let me make sure. Okay, we're good. Yep. Now, like, we can pass in our number string, so number str. All right, there we go. So now we have our number parsed. We can then say console.writeLine number, like that. Save it. Okay. All right, cool. Bear with me as I check to make sure all my code is right. So go ahead and save this, and we're going to bring up the terminal. Okay. All right, so what we want is to go to the desktop. We now want cd test app, and we want test app. All right. So now we are in our test app project for these videos. Let's go ahead and do a .NET run. And there we go. We get 123 printed out to our terminal, which is the exact result that we wanted. Now, one thing I do want to bring up, and this is important for you to keep in mind as you use parse. You can't just use parse willy-nilly and all that stuff. You have to validate your input first. Otherwise, if you do not validate your input first and you try to parse a string that contains something that is not numeric, it will fail. It will cause an exception. Okay? So let's go ahead and actually take a look at that. We'll put an A at the end of this, or ABC at the end, right? Go ahead and save this code. Go back to the terminal. That's right, I'm not on Windows. All right. Do another .NET run here. And you can see that we get an exception. This is an unhandled exception. This basically tells us, hey, the string you tried to parse into an integer, in this case, it can't be parsed to an integer because it's not completely numeric. So that's what you'll run into if you don't validate your input first. All right. Now let's move on to TryParse. And so what we can do is we'll get rid of the parse call here. Okay. And so now just make sure that this integer right here has no value. Another thing you can do as well is we can make this optional, or we can make this nullable rather, and we'll set it to null initially. All right, and so now what we can do is we can create a Boolean value. Bool was successful equals. All right, and now here is where we're going to, here's where we're going to call our TryParse method. Now, what does TryParse do then? Why are we assigning a call to that method to a Boolean variable? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, TryParse returns a Boolean. This Boolean represents whether or not the parse was successful. The most basic version of TryParse takes in two parameters. It takes in, first, a string, which is the string that you want to parse into your chosen data type. And the second is an output variable, where you want the result of your parse to be stored if it was successful. Now, this will return a Boolean, as I mentioned before, so you can tailor your program's execution based on whether or not it was successful, right? So if it wasn't successful, you can have, say, a message box or some other sort of alert or message display to the user saying, hey, you didn't enter the correct kind of input, kind of thing. Or, if it was successful, you can then do whatever you need to do with that parsed integer, or double, or decimal, or whatever the case might be. Right? So, To call TryParse, we can say int dot TryParse, and inside of the parentheses for TryParse, we need to give it first the number str, comma, and then here we need to give it the output variable. This needs to be prefixed with the out keyword like this, so out, and then we need to give it number. All right, so go ahead and save this. We can clear .NET run. Okay, let's see. Okay. So it looks like what we need to do instead let's try getting rid of question mark. And we can do that. Okay, I want to make sure that this is okay. Okay, let's try that now. Save it. Clear .NET run. Okay, and there we go. We get 123 printed to our console. So let's clarify what we did here. So first things first is we have a string that is a string representation of a number, 1, 2, 3. Then we have a non-nullable integer, so do not make it nullable. Don't apply question mark or anything like that. Just keep it undeclared, right? Or undefined, whatever, right? Then we create a Boolean value called was successful, and we call the TryParse method, where we pass it the string that we want to try to parse to an int, and then we provide it the variable that we want the result of the parse to be assigned to, using an output variable. Then we print the number out to the console. But what if we want to print out the number only if the parse was successful? Well, we can do this all right. What we can do is we can say if was successful. Here we can say console.writeLine number. Else we can console.writeLine the parsing was not successful. All right. Let's make sure that we got this right. That's one thing we did not do. Okay, let's fix the formatting. Alright, there we go. We fixed our formatting. The thing about VS Code is that it doesn't format your code automatically in the same way that Visual Studio does. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so here we are. We have our if statement here. Let's go ahead and print out, or let's go ahead and run our code so we can see 123 printed out again. .NET run. And we get 123. However, let's go back up here and we add A, B, and C to the string. We save this and we try to run our code again. Okay. And we get the parsing was not successful. So that is how we can go ahead and conditionally run code based on whether or not our parsing was successful. Let's go ahead and again go back through what we did here, so I can hammer it into your head a little bit more. Best way to learn, right, is by repetition. So first things first, we create a string. This string is just, a normal string. Ideally, it's going to be a numeric or a string representation of some sort of number, whether it be a double, float, decimal, whatever the case might be. Sometimes it's not going to be. Sometimes it might have numbers or other characters in it that you can't parse into some other value. All right. The second thing we do is we create our output variable. So int number. We don't assign it anything. We don't make it nullable. None of that. Because if we do, we will get an error. Okay? The third thing we do is we create a Boolean that stores the Boolean value that's returned by TryParse, representing whether or not the parsing operation was in fact successful. When we call TryParse from the int structure data type, we pass it first the string that we want to try to parse into our int in this case, and then we give it the output variable prefixed by the out keyword, which tells C#, hey, this is an output variable. Then we we have a conditional statement. We have an if statement that tests whether or not the parsing was successful using our Boolean value. If it was, we print out our number. Otherwise, we print out a message to the user saying, hey, the parsing was not successful. So, that pretty much does it for this video on Parse and TryParse. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.